evening, welcome to Leicester Fan TV. My name's Phil. We're live 7:30 till 8 every Monday, and I want your views, want your comments. What do you want to talk about tonight? The football's back on Saturday. We've got that big away game at Southampton. Look what Reedy's called it. Is it a Southampton six-pointer? How much does it matter that we go there and win? Or is it one not to lose? I think most of us are going to say tonight, we really, really want to be winning that if we're staying up. But listen, the next 30 minutes, I want your views. I want your comments. What do you want to talk about? Anything's game for a chat tonight. So get your views in, get your comments in.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.
Yes, good evening and welcome. Don't forget you can follow us on all socials, like it just said there, at Leicester Fan TV, wherever you are. But let's leave that to one side. Let's get your comments in. Craig says straight away, hi Phil, it's a must win on Saturday away at Southampton. Do you agree with what Craig says? Is it must win? Is it mustn't lose? Has it got to be 3 points? Let me know your views. Scott, good evening to you. Hope you're well. Richie, hope you're well as well. Leicester City will beat Southampton away this Saturday coming. I hope you're right there, Richie. How do you think the game's going to go, mate? Renee, I'm good. How are you? Let me know your views and comments on the big game. Maz, good evening. Ian, hopefully you're well. It's a must not lose. I do understand what Ian's saying there. It would be really, really good to win, and probably we could go there, and we probably should go there and win. But I think to lose there puts a massive different swing on it, just because Southampton are down there. Matty says, good evening, Matty. Hope you're well. Says, definitely needs something out of it. If we're not beating the Saints, we're probably in trouble. And I agree. I hear what Matty's saying there. You do wonder, don't you? And you do think, look, if we're not going to beat teams like Southampton, where are enough points going to get from this season? Scott says, massive 3 games coming up. Obviously, that is Southampton. It's Forest and Ipswich coming up. Please start Fatua, Mavadidi and Buonatti behind the striker. Leave Ayew on the bench. Thought Ayew had a really good game in the last game, Scott. To be fair, I know what he's doing with Ayew. He is reliable. He gives you that 6, 7 out of 10. Doesn't really let you down. That's what I think he's doing with Ayew. Fatua can be in a game, could give you a 9 or 10 out of it. He could just as well give you a 4 out of 10, Fatua. I haven't seen enough from Fatua because he's not played enough, but can he give you that 7 out of 10 performance every week in, week out? I don't know. He didn't do it last season, week in, week out. He had some good games, but he also had some way drifted out. Bubba, good evening from the States. Hope you're well. Bubba says, has to be 3 points, full stop. That's the end of it. Would you have Vestergaard back in on Saturday as he's back from injury now? Craig, no, I wouldn't. Would you? I'm a bit surprised you're asking that, Craig. But listen, anybody else watching this? Would you? Craig's posed a question there. Would you have Vestergaard back? I think Buys and Okoli have done really, really well there and developing into a nice partnership. So for me, I'm not Vestergaard's biggest fan, and I wouldn't have him in there. Mark, good evening. Hope you're well. Thanks for watching on Facebook. Get your views in, Mark. Let me know what you think. Rosa, sorry if I've said that right, on Twitter saying, should be a winnable game, but I would like to see some identity in how we play so far. It's been a shambles in setup. Listen, fair enough. That's your comments. And I know there's quite a lot of people agree with you. I'm still going to say we're 15th. And I'm going to use that as my defense to say, I don't think it's shambles. I think it's work in progress, as they say. Don't think it's the finished article. I don't think we're there yet, but hopefully we're going to be there. Keith, good evening. Hope you're well. Andy Medhurst. Every game below the top 12 is a must win. I think I hear what you're saying when you're playing at home, Andy. I think away from home, I could argue with you. Maybe it's a mustn't lose, maybe away from home. But I do think, listen, Southampton looks stinky this season already. So I feel like we do want to go there and get 3 points. Cooper needs to play his best players and stop clowning around. Tony, up for the debate. Who's he playing and who's he not playing? Let me know in the comments. If you're going to be the manager, if I'm going to be the manager, you've got to say, Tony, who you think he shouldn't be playing and why. Rene says, Southampton are 20th place. I hope Leicester can beat Southampton 9-0. Listen, just talking of Southampton, don't forget, on Thursday this week, Jono is going to be hosting the Foxes Focus show with Simon and Glenn from the Saints podcast. So that's on at 7:30 on Thursday. So do make sure you join them for a bit of a view from all sides there. We've got an away fan on this week. Witchy says, Harbour Town play Tunbridge Angels away in the first ever FA Cup. Draw just been made tonight up the Harbour Town FC. Fair enough, Richie. Always like to give local teams a support. Patrick says, cannot see Facuna starting Saturday as he will be in Argentina until Thursday. Again, if that's right, Patrick, your world football knowledge is better than mine. If he is all the way out there, then yeah, that is a tremendous trip back. If Buonatti can't play, and he's obviously played very, very well for us, who would you be picking, Patrick, and anybody else watching this? Are you going to give El Canous the role there? He looked pretty poor in that game he played. I don't know. And this is some of what we don't see as fans. And I understand people saying, oh, you know, Steve Cooper does this, Enzo did that, Puel did that, Rodgers did that. Sometimes, listen, we don't see how everybody's going at training and we don't see how everything's setting up. I'm going to have Tom in. I want as many views and comments coming in while we chat as well. So let's add Tom in. Tom, good evening. Hope you're well.
Good, thanks, mate. You?
Yeah, good. Patrick was just saying there about Buonatti being still out in Argentina till Thursday. And that could cause, if that's true, which I'm not 100% on, Tom, but that's the sort of thing coming back from an international couple of games. You don't quite know who's going to be fit, do you?
No, of course, no. I think he's right that they don't come back till Thursday. It's a long-haul flight as well from him. Obviously, then he'll only have 1 day possibly training before they travel down on Friday. So a short turnaround, but play professional footballers, and if he's ready to go, you start him. You know, for me, he's the man that's starting to make us tick a little bit going forward, and he's our main threat. Let's not go anything against it. He's the one creating, he's the one scoring goals. So, you know, you want to see him playing if he can on Saturday away at Southampton, because it is a game, in my view, that it's make or break already. You know, you want to be pushing away from Southampton, and a win Saturday is crucial for me.
Just talk us through Buonatti performance against Bournemouth and why you think, I certainly think, Tom, he's starting to look like he could be a real player for us this season.
Buonanotte, what can you say? You know, his overall vision, his movement, nutmegging people, fun. The first half was definitely better than the second half. But I think that's because we dropped so deep, we didn't see much of him. But the first half, he was causing Bournemouth all sorts of problems because he was finding the pockets of space. He was getting up and down the right-hand channel. You know, the goal comes from the right-hand side with JJ and him linking up well and him cutting it in, little dummy, and then smashing it into the back of the net. He'd already had some warning shots before that from further out that what he could do. You know, the vision for looking for Vardy. I think when Vardy went through one-on-one and Vardy scuffed it wide as well. He is the main man at the moment. He's the Maddison for me. This team now. He's the link-up play. We get the ball to Winks and Skip, and they look for Buonatti. Buonatti is the one that causes the havoc for me.
Tom, he's only 19, and Andy says here, no wonder Brighton didn't want to sell him. You can see why they're giving him plenty of game time. I mean, we often say, oh, players are going to develop. He's just 19. He looks full of it, doesn't he? Full of confidence.
Age is only a number. If you're good enough, you play. And if you look at him, he played 32 games, I think, the season before in a Brighton team that was doing well.
Yeah, doing well.
He, obviously, injuries, he got his chance and he was playing well for them this year round. They've obviously got a few players and they want to get him some game time. And look, you ain't going to be able to sign this kind of player. But if he can help us stay in the league in one season, it gives us a better opportunity to go and sign players next year, being in the Premier League. So he's crucial. I like El Canous. I think there's a lot about him from what I've seen. But again, one game, very lightweight, got barged off the ball quite easy against Villa, I think it was. And, you know, long way to go this season for him. And still another young player that got a long time to develop. But, you know, I think Buonatti is obviously a lot further developed because he's had that season in the Premier League already.
Yeah, it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Bubba, watching in America, says Buonatti is one of those lads, never stops, always involved, always working. Loads of potential. Let's use him up and send him back a tired lad. I understand what you're saying there. And then, Tom, we've got lots of comments here, which I want to talk to you about. Sort of just touching on the debate, whether it's a 6-pointer or not. The councillor says we should be confident against a positive result. Cooper is doing a steady job in a tough league, in his opinion in there. Richie says, get behind Cooper, which I think is a fair. That's what I'm trying to rally cry to people, Richie, to say that. I know me and Tom don't quite sit on the same page as that, but Dean says here, and this is the question really I want to ask you, Tom, that Dean's saying here. He says, evening, a bit drastic calling Southampton a 6-pointer in October, but it's obviously a big game, 1-2 to the Foxes. Tom, we have sort of set this one up, and obviously attention turns to it. Is it too early on the 8th game to call it a 6-pointer? Is it a must-win or is it a mustn't-lose? Just what's your gut reaction at this stage?
Firstly, I'm totally behind Cooper before he wants to.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, I get that.
I think there's a lot of people think I'm a Cooper out, and no, there's no Cooper out. I just
you want to see more development.
Yeah, and what I've not seen enough to convince me yet. As for a 6-point, of course it is. I mean, we can build it up if we want, but if we win on Saturday, that means we'll be 8 points in front of Southampton already. That's the way I look at it. If we lose, and obviously they go to 4 points, so they'll be 2 points behind us. If you're suddenly saying that you're going to be 8 points in front of a team who are one of your relegation candidates and scrapping for, after that'll be 9 games. Well, it's Saturday or 8 games on Saturday. I think 8 games on Saturday. That's a massive points for me. We've seen how difficult it is to catch teams once they start getting away from you. We did it once under Pearson. Doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, like I say, for me, if you go there and get a draw, it's a positive. Yes, positive. We won the last game. Draw away from home, win your home games, always positive. But against a Southampton team who we beat convincingly twice last year, Cooper should be looking at their players and speaking to all the ones who played and said, how did you do it? And most players should know how to beat Southampton. Close them down from the back. Don't give them space. Don't give them time. You've seen all the clubs who've done it this year. Get it right. They can't cope with it. Their passing out from the back will not change under Martin. That's the way he plays. The only people who changed it is by bringing Ramsdale, who's gone longer a couple of times this season, and you can see the frustration from Martin already that he's kicking it along and not taking a risk. So, look, big game, maybe not a 6-pointer, but in my view, if you win, it's a massive leap towards pushing away from those teams below us.
Reedy says here, this is like the Leeds game last season. It's a big for whoever wins it, and we have to win, no doubt about it. Andy says, we need to beat Southampton as Forest will want to beat us even more. That's a week on Friday. Paul Newman just asked simply, Tom, what if Southampton win?
Look, obviously puts a lot of pressure back on the rest of the teams below them. I mean, you look at that league table at the moment, you've got obviously Wolves at bottom, Southampton on 1 point, Southampton on 1 point, Palace on 3 points. Suddenly we're on 6. At the moment, we've got a nice gap of a win, between us. But if Southampton win, obviously that puts them back into contention, pulling back into the league again. Look, the season ain't done after 7 or 8 games, but you can take a big leap forward with the confidence to go and beat the teams around you. And it is all about that mini league already. The teams of from 20th up to about 12th, you'd say, are already in a little mini league fighting for themselves. So a win on Saturday is massive, because if not, Southampton get a confidence boost and win their first game of the season. Let's not put it wrong. We're going into the 8th game of the season. There's still four teams without a win on the board. I don't think that's happened ever in the Premier League, that we're going into round 8 with no teams without a win. Yeah,
I asked earlier, Tom. Tony was saying about Cooper's got to pick the right team. So I challenged Tony and said, right, Tony, who's he not playing and who's wrong? So Tony's come back here, which is fair enough. And I always ask people, get your views and get your comments in. So Tom, this is what Tony thinks Cooper's not quite getting right. So I'll have my say after you. But he's saying Pereira and Fatwa in, Ayew out, Christensen out, Skip out, Winks in, Edward left back in Leicester. Or he's obviously left back. Yeah, I get what he's saying. What's your thoughts there to Tony? Because this is part of the thing where you've got some people. There literally is Cooper out people, and then there's people saying just bear with it, which I feel in the middle camp. And then there's, what's your reaction to that? To the Tony Smith comment?
I think you leave Christians in the team. I don't think he's done anything wrong to be dropped from the team. That's my view. I don't think Justin deserves to be dropped after last week. I don't think you change a winning team in my head. That's the way I look at it. But if I was to make one change, I think I would take out Ayew and I would start Fatwa, because of how much havoc he caused Southampton last two fixtures, especially at the King Power, how much he destroyed their left-hand side. And their team hasn't changed that much since being promoted. Yes, there's one or two new players, but they all know the damage that Mavididi and Fatawu can do to them. And it probably put the fear in them if they see them two starting again, them thinking, I think that's possibly at it. I think Skip deserves to play. I thought he was brilliant against Bournemouth. I thought he really ran the show. I like Harry Winks, but let's be honest, everyone knows how to play him against him now. All they do is man mark him out the game because they all know his game he's a quarterback. And what do you do when you're a quarterback? You try and get into him quickly, ruffle him up. And teams have done it this season. They've not let him get the ball. When our defence got the ball, they're not bothered. All they do is put someone on Winks because they know if they let Winks try and dip our play, we look threatening. What they do, they didn't do that against Skip. They didn't do it against Ndidi. So for me, I'd keep the team that played last week, but probably been Fatawu in onto the right, and that'd be about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Upton says, make Vardy a super sub being used 80 minutes every match is too much, although I believe he's been on holiday somewhere nice and hot, hasn't he? Bahrain. Andy Medhurst says, still worried about the defence with the amount of shots Bournemouth had. I understand what Andy's saying there. The thing I would say back, Tom, to Andy there is some of the best games you'll ever win playing football is when you've had your backs against the wall and you kept them out. I don't know if you watched the tunnel cam after the Bournemouth game, but the Leicester lads walked in looking really, really pumped and really pleased that they're just, that was a good hard battle to keep it at the clean sheet.
It was a good hard battle, but this is where my question towards the manager is that you could see what they did after 10 minutes. So they changed the winger, they brought players inside to overload us again. JJ got left exposed. And I just think sometimes you sit here thinking, yeah, it's a great battle, but that game could have been made a lot easier if we'd made substitutions early. And still my question is why we leave substitutions so late in games when, the crowd can see that we're up against it and we need to change something. And I think sometimes we've got to change things early and we've got to be less stubborn and think, no, we'll ride our luck, because we rode our luck too much against Bournemouth, and against other opposition, we're not going to get that look, mate. Teams are going to come out the second half and steamroll us. So,
you see, it's so interesting, Tom, because again, Paul says here, it's damaging the team players, club and fans that Cooper does not know his best 11. But like, Paul, I'll ask you this. If you were to put your best 11 down, if I was to put my best 11 down, and if Tom was to put his best 11 down, they wouldn't be the same, because we'd all be picking different players for different reasons, Tom, wouldn't we?
I think definitely.
We don't agree on who should be the best 11 starting team. So
no, miles off, because I think last year the team picked itself. We were winning games. Obviously, when you're winning games,
towards the end, Enzo, the first 10, 15 games, he went through this. McAteer played quite a bit, and other players played quite a bit. It took him a while.
Yeah, but like I say, when you're not winning games, there's always a stumble. There's always someone who's the scapegoat. There's always someone going to turn line. I'll just read the one about Christensen. Like, Victor Christensen isn't a top, Premier League player. I completely understand what people are saying, but I don't think there's another left back who needs to be playing there, if you get what I mean. Luke Thomas is nowhere near good enough. I saw that against Walsall, that the kid, nowhere near good enough. So do you play? You're telling me that the player that everyone's moaned about in JJ, who's not been a bit of the scapegoat for all the goals this year, you want to move him to left back and then drop him? Seems a bit harsh on Christensen. Steady Eddie does a half decent job in that role, what Cooper likes to play, with one winger going forward, the other one sitting in a back three. Not going to light up the world, let's not get it wrong, but I think at the moment he's probably the best candidate that we've got to play in that left back role.
Yeah, Paul says true, but he works with the players day in, day out. Paul, you're quite right when you say that. If anybody should know the players inside and out, it is the manager, because he is there every day. But I still feel he'll see a lot of what we see. We watch the match days, Paul, so we get to see what happens there. And players can do one thing in trainer. Daka must be one of the best trainers in the world to get the amount of game time he's got, because on a match day, he looks a bag of spanner, Paul. Really says, on any other day, Bournemouth could and would have got more than 0 points. We can't defend a 1-0 lead, he says, although I just remind Reedy, we did defend a 1-0 lead and we did get 3 points. So that's where I'll leave his comments there, because he says we can't defend a lead, but we just did. Obviously, it doesn't always happen. Councillor says we don't have the quality for a starting 11. We have to play dependent on our opponents. Now, Tom, I understand what the councillor is saying there, because I feel that is Leicester at the moment. Is for a lot of the games we are having to look at the other team and go, how do we outmaneuver that team to try to get something out of it? The one thing I'd say different, Tom, is Southampton. I understand where you're saying play Patu or play Mavididi, because I think we are actually better than Southampton. So rarely this season we can play to our strengths potentially.
I said it after the Arsenal game when we conceded the 4. I've said it a few times. I think our best strength anyway is to attack his best form of defence, for my view, with Leicester at the moment. I think defensively we're not there. I think we get lucky at times. And I think our best time when we have looked good is actually going for teams quicker, going at the start. I think the Palace away game, we were a lot better. We got going from the start. That's been one of my biggest concerns all season. It takes us so long to get going. We've had 7 games this year. I'd say half of them we've not turned up for one half or the other. You know, you can't do that in the Premier League week in, week out. We've got to go to me for Southampton, who are a bang average team, and go at them. I don't want to go into Southampton like we did to Arsenal with a defensive mindset, but we're going to sit back, we're going to let them have the ball, we'll let them knock it around. We'll probably lose if we do that. If we go to Southampton and do what Arsenal, Brentford have done, and that get into their back 4, get into their lines, stop them playing out from the back, or let them try and play out from the back and nick the ball off them, because we've got that pace and power. We can have a great day out on Saturday. If we do the opposite though and go there and try and play defensive football from the start or not come out, that could be a concerning matter.
Well, Dean says Tom always makes so much sense. Have you ever thought about being a manager? Tom, are you not took over your lads' football team yet as manager? Come on, it's got to be soon.
Problem is, I'd be too like Rooney. I'd be losing my head, my shit with the referees every week, if I'm honest with you.
I know. And then here's a really interesting question from Scott, and I think this is a good question, Tom. Because Scott says, would fans rather us play a similar style to Ipswich and Southampton, which I agree is a more attacking focus, but he goes on and get the results they're getting, or keeping things tight in hopes of getting better results. And I think Scott's got a good point there, Tom, because Ipswich, a couple of games have been, albeit one was away at Man City, got a few goals put by them, but they did get they got made to look a bit silly at West Ham, and West Ham are nothing great this season themselves. It's tricky, isn't it?
I understand. Well, you say keep it tight, but then let's look at the goals conceded. I mean, they've conceded. I've got the chat. 10 goals Palace conceded. Ipswich conceded 14 goals.
Yeah, how many have we conceded?
12. Scored 9, -3. Where you look at them, boys are on Ipswich are -8, Southampton -11, and Wolves are -12. It's like saying, I mean, the thing with it is Ipswich, the way they play, they haven't changed the way they play. I'll give that. Ipswich and Southampton haven't changed the way they play. Southampton definitely haven't changed because they play up from the back, and we saw what we did them to last year. You can't get away in the Premier League with Championship players trying to play out from the back. It just doesn't work. You know, it's not saying keep it tight, but look how many goals they concede from playing out. They get caught by silly mistakes. Ipswich, on the other hand, haven't really changed, but they, like you say, their first proper drumming was the weekend at West Ham. Look, Man City game means nothing to them, and it'll mean
I agree. That's like us losing at Arsenal. It's just,
the West Ham game. Obviously, before that, West Ham were only on 5 points, with a poor goal difference, and then suddenly they're on like -1 point goal difference. So, look, Leicester keeping it tight. I understand what people are saying, but all I'm trying to say, my point is, I want to see what we're trying to do, and I sometimes don't get that with Cooper's team or the way he's trying to play through the lines. I don't see the whole identity yet. And look, we are early in the season still, I accept that, but I still want to see a little bit more now going forward. Like you say, it's all right being a tight team, but you've got to show something against the weaker opposition.
Yeah, you see, it's so interesting. This is why we love doing this, because it is fun debate, Tom. You see, I'm not quite sure what more. I hear that word a lot. I'd like to see a lot more. I'd like to see more identity from Leicester. See, I think I do see an identity there. We're sort of scrapping and battling, and probably in a lot of the games we're not necessarily the best team out there. So I just feel like we are scrapping around. And you know, the thing with the Premier League is so a lot of the teams have got some real talent in there. Though even the middle table, the Palaces, the Fulhams, you know, the Bournemouths. That Bournemouth side in no way was anything like we played in the in the Championship last season, that Bournemouth team would beat every team in the Championship. I think.
Oh, mate, they would do because the
So
money that squad of players that Bournemouth got is ridiculous now. You know, if you think go back 10 years, and Bournemouth team wouldn't be anywhere near that. But this one, I mean, someone on here, Enzo Ball. So what Enzo Ball felt, we'll never know. I generally think it would have been an interesting thing to see Enzo Ball in the Premier League because he wanted to change from the way we play. I think the difference is Enzo Ball coming into the Premier League, he's had a season drilling into the lads the way we play. It would have been up to the players then to try and prove it against Premiership players and trying to play out like Southampton does. And Southampton, they can't get it right, for the amount of things they try. Would Leicester? I don't know. I think they would.
We'll never know.
I think it would have been hit and miss. That's why I would have put it because I think there's teams like your Southamptons it would have worked against. But I think the games like your Arsenals, if you go and try and play the way we did, we would have got crushed even more than we did the other week.
Yeah, the best way we can play that counter-attacking football, but we've lost that. And when we don't have that speed on the sides with Fatu and Mavididi, I think Tom's nodding in agreement there. The councillor says the Leicester City way is to be honest. That's probably what I think is if the players do have an honest game and put their guts in, we've got half a chance. Maybe we've got some better players. I'm hoping, Tom, my thing this season is I hope some of these players pay off. Akoli looks like he could pay off. Buonatti looks like he could pay off. If Mavididi starts to hit a run, get in there, Skip looks, we could progress as that team and be better. But it's go on.
I was shaking my head at this comment because, Rich, I'm fully behind any Leicester manager comes in. I'm just giving my opinion, what I'm seeing on the pitch week in, week out, mate. There's nothing me not supporting the team. Phil will tell you that. You won't find anyone who support the club more than I'll support the club over the years, home and away. You know, it is one of those. I'm just giving my opinion, what I'm seeing. Okay, if I want to say style, I'd say patterns of play, then that's what I'm not seeing. Let's put it that way. It's not a case of a style then, it's the patterns of play. I don't see when we get the ball, the players fully understand where their next pass has got to be. I know Enzo was different and there was a logic to what he was doing, but I still saw patterns of play through the team. At the moment, I still don't see the patterns of play. Like we get the ball in the halfway line and sometimes it is very just go backwards. And then we hit it long and hope. And at the moment, we haven't got a big striker. So it's a pointless exercise, in my view, giving the team the ball back every single time we do that. What I'm seeing is I'd like to see the patterns of play when we get the ball and when we can speed it up. We've seen it this season. Palace away, a couple of goals at Arsenal. When we get it right, we look threatening. But for me, I'm not seeing enough of that when we do get the ball. It's very staggered. It's very lackluster with the ball. That's what we need to just speed it up a bit. That's why I think we look better when we move the ball quicker and get it through the lines. Problem is, soon as teams set themselves, we don't seem to have an idea how to break teams down.
Scarlett watching on YouTube says Cooper is still figuring out his best 11. I agree with that. I think he still is, which is scary, she goes on to say. But when he does, I think we'll kick on. We have goals from all over the pitch. And when we sort out the back line, I actually think the back line's looking all right, Tom. I think defensively we've looked okay, but Scarlett finishes off with we'll have a decent season. I think the back line looks okay. I think the midfield looks okay. I think the forward line looks okay. It's perhaps not interweaving together yet, Tom.
No, it's just not gelled. That's what I mean. There's just
not for 90 minutes.
No, but that's the problem.
That's the big thing.
We're playing 45 minutes of football most weeks. And like I said, you can't do that in the Premier League week in, week out, because at the end of the day, you're going to come up stuck against someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The problem, if you're going to play the counter, I completely get what you're saying, counter. If you're going to play the counter, you've got to play some fast players. Buonanotte isn't the quickest of all players. That's not going wrong. He's skillful and he can dribble and stuff, but he's not the quickest on the wing. If you're going to play that counter-attack football, you can't play Ayew in the team. You've got to play quick through the lines, and you've got to have Mavididi and Fatu as your two wingers to break through quickly and get in behind.
Really says there, I think many fans will just see opinions as negative if people don't agree. We just don't see what Cooper wants to do. Is he doing things right? Is he being too defensive? Maybe not. I think that's my biggest thing, Tom, and we'll probably end on this little mini debate before we go. My biggest thing is I'm prepared to give him the time, and I know you are to a certain extent. I keep judging us on where we are in the table at the moment. We're 15th. And I also think there's a lot of fans, and again, Weedy today was saying to me, bless him, he was saying, well, if we don't get this, I'm Cooper out. If we don't do that in 2 games, I'm Cooper out. I'm like, people seem very, and I know we've got to not leave it too long if things go wrong, but people seem very ready, almost like they've got the trigger ready to pull. And I'm like, we've actually I think we've had an okay-ish start when we're back in the Premier League. We're not in the bottom 3. We are okay-ish. Let's not get carried away. Either way.
I think if I sit now and look at the season, it's frustrating that we've not got a few more points. I think the Palace game, we threw them away, guttingly, because that should have been another 2-1. Exactly. You can't, and that's why I say after the game, you can't blame Cooper for a defensive mistake and a VAR decision. You're putting your most experienced player a centre half, and he goes and dives in the middle of the box. I'm not blaming Cooper for that. He did what 50-60% of any other manager in the country does in where we are in the league, and goes defensive. I mean, people say, why go so defensive? We were up against it. That's what you do when you're in that league. But the other games, Arsenal away, just really unlucky that we couldn't hold on to get a point there. The Villa game didn't really turn up again, took too long to get going. Tottenham, again, we were lucky, really, you might say, to come away with a draw. Some might say we could have nicked it if Vardy puts the ball in the net. But again, it's these 45 minutes performances, mate. That's where the talking boys at the moment. If we turn those 45s into 80 minutes, you're probably sitting here with a couple more points on the board. What's a massive difference? Like say, I broke the season down into, in bits. This next 4 games, the Bournemouth, Southampton, Forest and Ipswich, for me, was a little mini league. How many points could we get? I said if we could get 8 points from the 4 games, it's a good return. We've already got 3. So now you go, right, what do we need from that? If we can get 6 points from 3 games, it's another good little return in my view, because you come out of that with 9 points out of the 8 I wanted.
You're getting greedy there, Tom.
No, because I think you've got to look at it. You've got to look at the teams who you're playing around you. And, if you look at Ipswich, Forest KO had a good start to the season. And, well and truly, where they at the moment, Forest are 10th in the league, on 10 points. They've had a really good start to the season. But the 2 games against against Southampton and Ipswich, you've got to be looking for maximum points, or you'd say 5 points from the next 3 games. Realistically, it would still be a good return. If you could go undefeated in the next one, win 1 and draw 2, and then take the other 3, what you got for Bournemouth, you've hit your target for me on that point. Man United game, be honest, you go in there with no fear because they're playing absolutely crap at the moment, and you'd say you can go to Old Trafford and get a result because teams can do it.
Yeah, indeed. Eddie says he sees us in the top 10 this season. You never know. I don't rule out that we can be middle to top half of the table if things go well for us. It was so early in the season. It's very, very hard to know where this team might develop into, Tom. That's my biggest thing. And that's why I'm just prepared to give it quite a bit longer before I'm pulling the bullet. But I do get it. 3 massive games, Southampton, Forest and Ipswich. It's either perfect timing, because it could be, like you say, 5, 6, 9 points. I was trying to work out what points it can't be. It can't be 7. Anyway, Tom, listen, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great to have you on.
No problem, mate. Cheers.
So thanks a lot for Tom. I'll let him go. And like I say, me and Tom, we don't agree on everything, just like you guys don't. But it's all about having those different opinions and just calling it as it is. That's what it's all about. But trying to listen to each other and go, well, I think it should be him. I think it should be them. We'll have to wait and see. Don't forget, this Thursday, we've got Fox's Focus is on at 7:30. That's on live. That's with Jono, Simon and Glenn from the Saints podcast. The True Saints podcast. I think I've got that right. So join them at 7:30. Reedy and Sam will be live Thursday lunch this week with their tactics talk. So again, tune into that. I think that's going to be about 1 o'clock. We're trying to set that in stone so you can watch that while you're having your lunch, maybe at work or whatever on a Thursday. So do make sure you join in and see all that. And of course, the famous Aftermath show. I think it's at 10 o'clock this Sunday. I really do. Is it at 10 o'clock on Sunday? Somebody give me a thumbs up. Reedy's giving me the thumbs up. Got Reedy, come on for 10 seconds. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. Reedy, when's the Fox's famous Aftermath show on?
10 o'clock on Sunday.
So if you want to listen to nonsense from Reedy, 10 a.m. on Sunday. Cheers, mate. He's a good sport. He is a good lad. Anyway, listen, thanks again to Reedy for popping on. Thanks a lot for Tom. Can't do it without people like Tom coming on and giving us their views. But mostly, thanks for all your views and comments. I hope we got yours on screen. Don't forget, if you want to like, share, subscribe, whatever it is you guys want to do, Follow us at Leicester Fan TV on all the platforms, and we'll see you down at the game on Saturday. See you there.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.